What's going on, guys? It's Troydan here, and today we've got every banned player in the NBA. I can't think of too many players that are banned in the NBA, but apparently OJ Mayo's banned. What the hell did he do? Was it pot? I guess we'll find out. 3, 2, 1, go.
Mayo, his story in the NBA didn't end with a quiet fade into retirement. It was a sudden, sharp drop. Back in July of 2016,
Was it weed?
the league dropped the hammer, announcing he was disqualified for violating the NBA and NBPA's anti-drug rules. This wasn't your average suspension either. He got slapped with a 2-year ban. That meant no roster, no contract, no chance to step onto the court until at least July 1st, 2018. Before this, he'd already been suspended in 2011 for testing positive for a performance enhancer. Something he said came from a random energy drink. At the time of his ban, he wasn't even...
Random? You thought steroids when you're Red Bull? Dude, that's crazy. I thought it was pot.
Under contract. His deal with Milwaukee had ended after a season where he broke his ankle, tripping on stairs of all things. That year wasn't great anyway. He only played in 41 games and averaged under 8 points per game. When the news broke, it was a massive
Music
deal.
is so
this
unnecessary.
wasn't just a PED violation, it was a positive test for a drug of abuse. That list includes stuff like cocaine and heroin. The NBA doesn't reveal which drug it was, but Mayo later said it was a prescription painkiller. In an interview, he admitted to messing up and said it was the pills that triggered the ban. He denied using any hardcore drugs like cocaine. And even though he'd smoked marijuana before, he didn't blame that for what happened. The league takes this kind of thing seriously. A positive test for one of those specific drugs can lead to automatic dismissal, even if it's a first-time offense. And that's exactly what happened.
Damn.
Mayo's life after the ban took a major hit. He lost out on potential contracts, maybe even $30 to $40 million in earnings. That's a massive number for someone at 28, especially when his career was already trending down. The public reaction was a mix of support and shock. Some of his former teammates backed him on social media, while others were just stunned. Meanwhile, Mayo was trying to regroup. He said he hit rock bottom and avoided watching NBA games because it reminded him of what he lost.
Oh, that's
he was
sad as
eligible
hell.
to apply for reinstatement after those 2 years, but the process isn't easy. The NBA and NBPA have full control over it, and they don't hand out second chances like candy. Mayo reportedly applied in 2018 and got reinstated, but no team picked him up. Since then, he's been bouncing around overseas, playing in places like China, Taiwan, Puerto Rico, and Egypt. At 36, his NBA return chances are about as slim as a toothpick at a buffet. Jontay Porter. This was a band that dropped like an
I know what this guy did. Involved some parlays.
anvil, and for good reason. Back in March
Maybe some props.
2024, the NBA started sniffing around some fishy betting activity tied to Porter's performance. He was pulled from a game that night, and by April 17th, it was official. He was out for life. That's right. The league hit him with a lifetime ban for violating gambling rules. Turns out, he shared confidential health info with known bettors and pulled himself early from games, so those bets could hit. Not exactly the blueprint for a long career. The NBA's investigation
I
showed
thought he was doing like player prompts on himself, and he was like scoring less or over whatever it was. I didn't know it was that.
he tipped off a bettor before a March game, and that guy tried to cash in with an $80,000 parlay that would have scored over $1 million. That payout got frozen. Porter also dipped out early in a January game, citing an eye issue. Both games had suspicious betting spikes on the under for his stats. Then it got worse. Porter placed at least 13 bets on NBA games himself while under contract. He even bet against the Raptors 3 times. None of those bets involved games he played in, but the league doesn't care. He broke the rule.
He bet against himself?
To July 3rd, and federal prosecutors stepped in. By July 10th, Porter pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud. That one could land him in prison for around 3 to 4 years. His lawyers tried to get his bond changed so he could play basketball in Greece while awaiting sentencing. The judge said nope. At the time of the ban, he was 24 and averaging 4.4 points, 3.2 rebounds, and 2.3 assists across 26 games. The Raptors backed the league's decision, saying they supported the process. The National Basketball Players Association chimed in too, basically saying that players need more help understanding the sports betting rules. On social media, the reaction was explosive. You had insiders, fans, and former players lighting up the timeline. As for reinstatement, forget it. The NBA's rules on gambling bans are pretty clear.
Yeah, I agree.
And unappealable.
That means there's no shot at a
comeback. This isn't like a drug-related suspension. Once you're out for gambling, you stay out.
That's facts.
Porter's still banned. as of April 24, 2025. Even his shot to play overseas was blocked by a judge. The damage is deep. He was a fringe player already, and now the only court he'll be seeing for a while might have a judge in it.
Wait, a judge blocked him from playing basketball anywhere in the world? I didn't know a judge could do that. Is that true? That's real?
This came from leaked health info, a gambling addiction, and a handful of bets that backfired spectacularly. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Tyreke Evans. When the NBA banned him in May of 2019, the wording was clear: dismissed and disqualified.
What?
That meant he wasn't coming back anytime soon. He was out for at least 2 years, and nobody knew what came next. The violation? A positive test for a drug of abuse. The NBA didn't say which one, because under the league's policy, they're not allowed to. But it was serious enough to trigger the automatic 2-year suspension.
It was coke! It was cocaine.
Not the kind of slap on the wrist you'd get with the performance enhancer. At the time, Evans was a free agent. He just finished the season with Indiana, putting up a solid 10 points a night across 69 games. So this didn't void a deal, but it erased any chance of signing one. Teams weren't going to touch him until the ban ran its course.
I didn't know this. He was banned.
No damage control tour, no long sit-down interviews, just gone. Fast forward to February of 2022. The NBA let him back in. That meant he met all the criteria, completed rehab, passed his drug tests, and proved to the league he was ready.
Awesome.
A week later, he joined the Wisconsin Herd, the Bucks G League squad. He played 9 games and averaged 15 points. Solid. Milwaukee called him up on a 10-day deal in March. He got 5 minutes in a single game and scored 2 points.
Yeah!
And that was it. No new contract, just a blip. Later that year, Evans signed with Indiana again, but they waived him before the season started. He hasn't appeared in an NBA game since April of 2019. As of April 24, 2025, he's 35 and still not back in the league. He's been active though, playing in other leagues, open runs, workout showcases.
Yeah, it's always the big
still
three.
Trying. His band stands out for how quiet it was. No legal issues, no betting scandal, no social media circus, just a drug violation, a quiet exit, and a short-lived return. He didn't have any prior NBA drug suspensions. The league didn't report anything from before. He did have some earlier stuff, a reckless driving citation in 2010 and a 1-game team suspension in 2016 for missing practice and a flight. Nothing major. Injuries slowed him too.
He missed a flight?
Especially that knee surgery.
You missed he missed a flight. Whoa, no. Oh, Nelly, what a fucker.
2016 that kept him out for a whole season. He was Rookie of the Year in 2010, one of just a handful of rookies to average over 20 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists. It looked like the start of something big. The ban didn't end his story, but it froze a career that had already been slipping. Richard Dumas. Before he ever touched an NBA court, the league had already shown him the door. Back in October of 1991, just ahead of what was supposed to be his rookie season, the NBA suspended him indefinitely for violating the anti-drug policy. He was a second-round pick for Phoenix.
I'm gonna guess the drug. Give us a drug. I'm going with cocaine.
Up for them, he ended up in Israel, dropping 21 points a night for Hapoel Holon. So his debut got postponed until December of 1992. And when he finally hit the court, he looked like a breakout star. But then came strike 2. By September of 1993, he'd violated his rehab program. The league sent him off to treatment again, and Phoenix made it clear he wasn't part of their plans anymore. Rumors about a trade for Dennis Rodman? Gone. Dumas returned the next season but barely made a dent. 15 games, and then another failed test. Still, the Sixers gave him one more shot in 1995. He lasted 39 games before he violated a contract clause banning alcohol. That was strike 3. This time, it wasn't drugs, it was beer. He later said he drank a 6-pack before games to manage his bipolar depression and social anxiety. Coach John...
What? He said he drank a 6-pack before...
He drank a 6-pack before games to manage his bipolar depression and social anxiety.
You drank a 6-pack before you jumped on the court because you bipolar? Okay, Kanye.
Coach John Lucas moved his test to 4 p.m. to catch him, and it worked. The result? A permanent ban from the NBA at just 26. Dumas never applied for reinstatement. He didn't want to deal with the league anymore. He played in Greece, Poland, and a few minor leagues, back home until he retired in 2003. His final NBA line? 102 games, 10.6 points per game, and a career that burned bright. In 2013, things got worse. He was arrested for stealing around $800 worth of goods while working at a military base. He got 3 years probation, but through it all, he stayed connected. In 2023, he showed up to the Suns reunion, celebrating that finals run from 1993.
Wait, you let him come to the reunion? What the? This is so weird.
Season where he averaged nearly 16 points and helped Phoenix push the
Why
Bulls
does he get to go to the
6 games.
reunion?
Dumas was open later on about his mental health. Diagnosed with bipolar depression and anxiety, he self-medicated with alcohol from his teenage years, add in marijuana and crack use in high school.
That's
and you start
everyone,
to see
though.
how deep his struggles ran. He's the son of Rich Dumas, an ABA
Oh,
player. He
I know
came out
Richard.
of Tulsa with huge potential. What happened to him wasn't about talent. It was about demons he couldn't shake. Chris Anderson. The NBA tossed him out in January of 2006.
Chris Anderson, the Birdman, is banned from the NBA? What?
Calling it a dismissal and disqualification for violating the league's anti-drug policy. It wasn't your standard suspension. This was a full-on 2-year exile. The violation, a drug of abuse, which in league terms could mean anything from cocaine to LSD, but the NBA never disclosed what it was, and neither did Anderson.
It's coke.
That's how
It's
the
always
policy
coke.
works. Tight-lipped and no details. At the time, he was 2 years into a 3-year deal with Denver, worth over $10 million. When the ban hit, he lost the rest of it, about $7 million down the drain.
Oh, man.
Anderson was 27 and playing a decent role for the Nuggets, putting up 5 points, 5 boards, and over 1.5 blocks per game. Not a star, but definitely not disposable. Still, the ban shut the door. He missed all of the 2006 and 2007 seasons. Then came the climb back. Anderson was eligible for reinstatement on January 27,
won a ring with LeBron.
2008, and he got it. The league let him back in, and he signed with the Hornets 2 days later. His return was quiet, 5 games that season, but it got the wheels turning again. In July, Denver brought him back. The crowd loved him. The dunks, the tattoos, the energy.
We're still in
Birdman
contest,
was
Devin.
back in flight. From there, he turned the whole narrative around. He became a defensive anchor off the bench, flying in for blocks and rebounds. He had a strong second act in Denver, then hit the jackpot in Miami. In 2013, he helped the Heat win a championship, contributing with solid minutes, defense, and hustle. He stuck with them for a few more years, played for Memphis and Cleveland, and even gave the Big Three League a shot before retiring in 2018. His career ended with 695 games, 5.4 points, 5
Did he get
rebounds,
really banned then? Was he really banned?
and 1.4 blocks a night. Not bad for a guy who was once completely tossed out of the league. Post-retirement, he stayed around basketball, making appearances and sharing his story of recovery. He never said what drug got him banned,
It's coke.
and nobody's confirmed it officially.
I did.
But
It's
it didn't
coke.
matter
It's
in
coke.
the end.
Troydan
What mattered
confirmed
was
it.
the comeback. He beat the odds. No legal trouble, no lifetime mark.
Didn't
just a
he?
2-year
Wasn't he in
pause
trouble
and
for
a
some? I'm not even gonna say what he's in trouble for. I don't even want to know. I won't do
whole
it.
lot of determination. For a guy
Come
who entered the
alone.
league undrafted and got kicked out in his prime, finishing with a title and a long career, that's rare air. Donald Sterling. In April of
this dude.
2014, the NBA found itself in the middle of a firestorm. TMZ dropped an audio recording of Sterling, then the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, spewing racist nonsense to his mistress. Among the gems, he told her not to bring black people to Clippers games and complained about her social media posts featuring black celebrities. Yes, that actually happened.
I remember
4 days
this.
later, Commissioner Adam Silver made it very clear. Sterling was done. Banned for life, fined $2.5 million. Silver also
not what
pushed for the
happened.
league's board of governors to force the sale of the Clippers.
Yeah,
and
they
were
forced him
ready,
to sell
but
it. That's how. Remember Steve Ballmer? Steve Ballmer ended up getting the Clippers. Yeah, they forced him to sell it. That
Before
was
the vote
crazy
happened,
when that happened.
Sterling's wife Shelley stepped in, cut a deal with the league, and sold the team to former Microsoft CEO
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer for $2 billion. A California court approved the deal in August, and just like that, Donald Sterling's 33-year reign as owner was over. The ban itself was based on conduct deemed detrimental to the best interests of basketball.
Yeah.
That phrase
Yeah.
came straight from the NBA Constitution. The league ran an investigation, confirmed the voice on the recording was Sterling, and verified that the quotes were real. The man didn't deny a thing. Unlike bans for players, there's no set reinstatement process for owners. Sterling wasn't suspended for drugs or gambling. He was exiled for racist behavior
Isn't he
that
dead?
publicly embarrassed the entire league. So when they said lifetime ban,
dead.
they meant it. And since 2014, he hasn't been seen anywhere
He's
near
dead,
NBA
that's
business.
right.
Now, even though he got banned, let's not pretend Sterling walked away broke. He bought the team for $12.5 million.
He's not dead. He's still alive. He's worth $4.4 billion. Holy smokes.
Back in 1981.
Yeah, no, like the demerit to put him down, they said he had to sell the team, but he ended up selling the team and made a ton of money. Look at that. 12.5 million to 2 billion. Oh no, you have to sell the team. Oh no, what a loss.
Sold it for $2 billion. That's
Crazy.
a gigantic return, even for a guy known for being cheap with players and staff. Of course, he tried to sue the league for $1 billion. claiming his rights were violated. That lawsuit was tossed in 2016, and he had to pay nearly $5 million in legal fees. Public reaction was swift. Players, coaches, and even President Obama called him out. Clippers players turned their warm-up jerseys inside out in protest before a playoff game. LeBron James, Chris Paul, and Doc Rivers were all vocal. Civil rights groups pulled awards they had planned to give him. The damage to his reputation was permanent. Since the ban, Sterling's kept a low profile. He's been focused on real estate and hasn't made any moves to get back into basketball. At 90 years old, it's safe to say the NBA chapter is closed. Good. Connie Hawkins. Back in 1961,
Connie Hawkins?
the NBA shut the door on a 19-year-old phenom before he ever had the chance to walk through it. He had just wrapped his freshman season at Iowa, could not
press one if this music ain't it. This is killing me, dude. This music is absolutely killing me.
Even play varsity due to NCAA rules when his name got dragged into a point shaving scandal. Hawkins was not charged, not arrested, nothing. But because he had taken a $200 loan from a known gambler, Jack Molinas, the NBA treated him like a full-blown criminal. The league did not hold a hearing, did not present evidence, just labeled him a risk and banned him indefinitely.
Wow.
The Minneapolis Lakers had drafted him, but that meant nothing. Once the NBA decided, he was bad for business. From age 19 to 27, those prime years of most athletes' careers, Hawkins was on the outside looking in. He played in the American Basketball League with the Pittsburgh Wrens and won Most Valuable Player. That league folded. He toured with the Harlem Globetrotters, showing off his unreal athleticism to crowds worldwide, but it was not real competition. Then came the American Basketball Association, where he dominated Most Valuable Player and champion with the Pittsburgh Pipers in 1968, but still no NBA. In 1966, Hawkins sued the NBA for $6 million, calling the ban what it was, unfair and baseless. The league settled in 1969, gave him $1.3 million, and finally lifted the ban. He signed with the Phoenix Suns and averaged 24.6 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 4.8 assists per game in his rookie season. He
steals?
made 4 straight All-Star teams and was second in Most Valuable Player voting that same year. The ban had cost him years and a chance at a longer NBA
that was
career.
assists, Ryan. Nobody averaged 4.5 steals a game. That's crazy.
Still, he made his mark, playing for the Suns, Lakers, and Hawks over 7 seasons. He retired in 1976 and got his Hall of Fame nod in 1992. A redemption, but not full justice. The reason for the ban? Pure guilt by association. Molinas had a shady history, and Hawkins knew him. That was enough for the league in a post-City College of New York scandal era where even whispers of gambling sent front offices into panic mode. The NBA did not need proof, just fear. Hawkins passed away in 2017 at 75, but his case still stands as one of the biggest wrongs in NBA history. No drugs, no arrests, just a young player penalized for who he knew, not what he did.
That's messed up what they did to Connie.
He got reinstated. And even if the league tried to erase him, Hawkins soared high enough that nobody could forget. Roy Tarpley. This guy had the kind of basketball talent that usually leads to a long career in highlight reels that get recycled every summer. But instead of becoming an NBA staple, Tarpley ended up banned for life after a mess of off-court problems that just never stopped snowballing. It all kicked off in October of 1989 when he got suspended indefinitely for testing positive for cocaine. That was strike one. He didn't play a single game that season. At the time, he was fresh off a breakout year, averaging over 17 points and nearly 12 boards. He looked like he was on the verge of stardom. Then came strike two. In October of 1991, Tarpley got nailed for driving while intoxicated and resisting arrest in Texas. That violated the NBA's aftercare program he was already in from the first suspension. The league didn't play around. He was banned indefinitely, again, just 2 years after the first incident. He was eventually reinstated in December that same year, played 34 games, but clearly wasn't the same force. Strike three came in November of 1994. Tarpley drank alcohol, which broke his aftercare terms again. That was the final straw. The NBA handed down a lifetime ban, which meant no more games, no more contracts, and no more second chances in the league, at least not until he could apply for reinstatement in 2 years. He did apply in January of 1997, but the NBA said no. His off-court troubles, including another DWI arrest in 1996, sealed that rejection. In 1999, he tried to sue the league and the Mavericks for $6 million, arguing his addiction was a disability. That went nowhere. By the time the NBA reinstated him in 2009, he was 44 and way past playing shape. He never signed with another team. He died in 2011 from liver failure, ending a life that had been packed with rehab stints, legal trouble, and missed chances.
What a waste of a life.
The guy lost out on millions. His contract with Dallas was worth $20 million over 6 years, and the band ripped away $14 million of that. He made good money overseas, over $3 million for a 2-year stint in Greece.
He probably
but
drunk
it wasn't
there,
the same
wasn't
as
he?
being in the league. The defense never got to see his full potential. He'd been drafted 7th overall in 1986, had won 6th Man of the Year, and was key in Dallas's playoff run to the Western Conference Final. But addiction ran his career into the ground. There's no sugarcoating it. His story is just plain tragic. Chris Washburn, his NBA
this
career
video, the
basically
way this
came
video
with
is edited is just freaking me. Is it freaking anyone else out? It's almost like this person isn't real.
Ticking clock from day one, picked 3rd overall in 1986 by the Warriors. Expectations were sky high, but his time in the league was more famous for the bands.
Never
than
heard of
the
this guy.
buckets. In January of 1987, Washburn got slapped with a 3-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy. That was strike 1. And yeah, 3 games isn't much, but it was the red flag waving in everybody's face. He was still a rookie, averaging under 4 points and 3 boards, so the timing couldn't have been worse. That summer, he checked into rehab and ended up missing the beginning of the next season. Fast forward to November of 1988, and Washburn, now with the Hawks, was suspended again. Strike 2. The NBA kept the details quiet, but it was another substance violation, and it meant things were clearly going downhill. By the end of that season, he had barely played and was showing up more on transaction reports than scoreboards. Then came the hammer. June 26th. 1989, Washburn tested positive for cocaine.
It's always coke.
And was
It's always
banned for
coke.
life.
It's always.
That was strike 3. Under the league's rules, 3 violations.
Listen, basketball
meant the
players
door
don't do downers, okay? They like their uppers. They like their nose candies.
slammed shut. He could have applied for reinstatement after 2 years, but he never did. Probably because between 1990 and the mid-90s, he was bouncing around minor leagues and overseas gigs, from Colombia to Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, off the court, his legal troubles started piling up. In 1996, he got arrested for having a stolen gun. Then in 2000, it was theft and breaking and entering. More of the same in 2005, larceny and another stint behind bars. Financially, it was a wipeout. He had a rookie contract worth about $2.7 million over 4 years, but the band cut it short and his overseas paychecks were nowhere near NBA money. He lost millions and earned the unfortunate tag of one of the biggest busts in draft history. The media didn't
about
hear
that?
And even his coaches were blamed.
Have you heard of
Karl
this guy named Kwame? There was also
flat
another
out said
couple.
he didn't think
Anthony.
Washburn had what it took to be serious about the game. He never came back to the NBA and never tried to. After basketball, he tried to turn things around. He worked in cleaning services and ran a homeless outreach
Yo,
program
is
in Las
that
Vegas.
Jones Barbecue and Foot Massage? I didn't know that. Oh.
That's where he stayed until he died in 2016 at 51 from a stroke. 72 games, just over 3 points a night, and a cautionary tale that still gets brought up whenever people talk about wasted potential in the league.
Yeah.
Eddie Johnson. No, not the broadcaster
What?
or the sharpshooter. This is the other one.
Ernie
the guard
Johnson?
drafted 49th overall by Atlanta in 1977. He came in hot, dropping over 10 points a game as a rookie and helping the Hawks get back to the playoffs after a long drought. That started a run where they made the postseason in 6 of his 8 full seasons. Johnson earned All-Star nods in 1980 and 1981, even scored 22 points in his first appearance. For a while, he was one of the most electric players in the league. But Johnson's problems didn't start with the NBA. They started way before that. He was already using cocaine in college. In 1979, he passed out at a celebration while at Auburn. That was the first sign, and things only got worse.
Wow.
He was described as stable during the season and totally unpredictable once it ended. By 1980, he was involved in a
it's like on
drug-related
cocaine.
shootout, arrested for cocaine possession, checked into a psychiatric facility, checked himself out, then got arrested for stealing a car. All in the same stretch. Charges were dropped, but the chaos never stopped. He was diagnosed with manic depression, but refused to take his prescribed lithium, claiming it made him
Lithium?
tired. The Hawks noticed his erratic behavior
empty
ramping up
batteries?
again in 1981. He was jumping rope on the sidelines during practice, wandering off to play with kids in the stands, and arguing with teammates. Eventually, they had him committed to a hospital. That same year, they lifted his suspension and got him back on the court. But things weren't normal. Johnson was always right on the edge. In the mid-'80s, he got traded to Cleveland, but called that year a waste. He ended up in the Continental Basketball Association, tearing it up for the Tampa Bay Thrillers and earning All-Star MVP. Seattle picked him up at the end of the season, but they literally assigned someone to monitor him off the court. He was volatile, and the team knew it. After failing to follow through on mandatory counseling, the NBA finally suspended him in 1987.
Yo, is that the celebrity, the one over there in the bottom right? Is that the celebrity that touches other people's wives? Is it the same? I think it is the same guy.
Johnson's life fell apart after basketball. He racked up around 100 arrests, burglary, battery, assault, drugs, you name it. Then in 2006, 100? It hit rock bottom.
100?
He was arrested for sexually assaulting an 8-year-old girl in Florida. He denied the charges,
but
in 2008, he was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. He died in prison at Santa Rosa Correctional Institution.
Let's go.
Johnson averaged 15 points over 675 games.
This guy
sucks. Buried under the wreckage of what came next.
Yo,
his name
someone find his grave so I can
now
spit
as
on
a tragic one.
Possibly shit
John
too.
Drew, one of the league's early scoring machines.
This video's driving me absolutely fucking nuts. I'm sorry. What was it, John Drew?
John Drew, one of the league's early scoring machines. And one of its earliest cautionary tales. Drafted by the Hawks in 1974, Drew jumped into the league and never looked back, at least on the court. He dropped over 20 points per game in 7 different seasons and was a 2-time All-Star. But behind the stats was a battle that eventually ended his NBA career for good. His first brush with trouble came in March of 1983 when he tested positive for cocaine. That was strike one. He wasn't suspended, but he had to check into rehab and missed several games in the process. Still, he managed to average almost 19 points that year. Things looked stable, but they weren't. In January of 1984, strike 2 hit. Drew tested positive again and got suspended indefinitely. He entered rehab once more, got reinstated later that season, and played in 81 games.
Okay.
But every return was just a delay, not a fix. Then came January 29, 1985. Playing for the Jazz, Drew tested positive for cocaine a third time. That meant a lifetime ban. He was only 30. He played 11 seasons, 739 games,
good career.
And averaged over 20 points per night. Just like that, it ended.
Well,
Drew
yeah,
stayed
pretty good
active
career.
in the game, hoping for another chance. He played in the Continental Basketball Association with the Wildcatters and the Spirits, keeping his game sharp. He applied for reinstatement in 1987, but the NBA wasn't convinced. He'd been arrested the year before for passing bad checks, and that didn't exactly help his case.
Bad checks.
The application
You don't hear
was
that
denied.
often anymore.
That was it. No more shots. He kept playing in smaller leagues, even overseas in France and Mexico, but he was done at the NBA level. Then in 1989, he got caught selling cocaine to an undercover agent. He served 14 months in prison. That kind of move makes a reinstatement completely impossible. Drew's finances fell apart along with everything else. He lost out on big-time NBA money. He was making around $600,000 with the Jazz when the ban hit, and there could have been a lot more. Minor leagues didn't pay much. He ended up working as a taxi driver in Atlanta and later as a youth coach. He died in 2012 from bone cancer. The league never reinstated him, and he never reapplied. For a guy who once led the NBA in scoring off the bench, it's a harsh reminder of what addiction can take away, even from someone with that much talent.
Facts.
Ernie Cobb, Rick Kuhn, and Jim Sweeney.
Who?
These names might not ring out like NBA legends, but they're forever etched in league history for a very different reason. Lifetime bans, tied to one of college basketball's most notorious scandals. Back in the summer of 1978, a pair of small-time gamblers from Pittsburgh cooked up a plan to manipulate games at Boston College. Their target, a handful of players who were just trying to finish their college careers. The result, an FBI case, a courtroom drama, and permanent bans from the NBA. Rick Kuhn, a reserve forward, was the linchpin. He recruited teammates Jim Sweeney and Ernie Cobb. Kuhn admitted to taking $2,500 per game and even accepted drugs as part of the deal. He played a direct role in fixing 6 games and later went to prison for conspiracy and sports bribery.
Damn.
The NBA ban? Not a shock. He orchestrated the whole thing, then tried to fade into anonymity. He never tried to come back and died in 2024. Jim Sweeney's story is messier. He didn't get charged, but he admitted to accepting $500 after one game. He also said he felt threatened and scared of what the mob might do. He testified for the prosecution with no immunity, claiming he never altered his play. That didn't save him from the ban. The NBA saw any involvement as enough. He never played pro ball and instead built a business empire in Florida, running a sports blog and creating comic books. Then there's Ernie Cobb. He was Boston College's star, dropping almost 23 points a game his senior year. He was accused of participating in 5 of the 9 fixed games and allegedly took $2,500 per contest. Cobb always denied throwing games and said the only money he received was a surprise envelope containing $1,000. He went to trial and was actually acquitted in 1984.
Wow.
Even so, the NBA banned him for good, citing his connection to the scandal and the cash exchange. None of them ever played an NBA game. Cobb was drafted by the Jazz, but got cut. Sweeney and Kuhn went undrafted and didn't make it through the door. The league made it clear, gambling equals lifetime exile.
Yeah.
Even Cobb's clean legal record couldn't undo the damage. He ended up playing overseas and later taught high school in Arizona. Kuhn played in Europe and the CBA for a bit, then went off the grid. Sweeney traded layups for laptops and turned a ruined basketball career into a successful business.
Layups for laptops. That is great. Yo, this video, the only thing that really drive me crazy, the music in the background, and motherfucker wouldn't stop. He talked so quick to the next one, I couldn't even hear. Is this AI? I'm sorry, halfway through this, I'm like, is this AI? I think I just got duped, but I did learn something. Some new band players that I didn't even know. Some of these guys, like I never even heard of this college story. A couple of them I had heard a few things on, but I definitely learned a little bit here. One thing we could take away, though, actually a few things, three things we could take away. Kids, write this down if you want to be in the NBA. 1, do not do cocaine. 2, do not gamble. And 3, do not do cocaine and gamble at the same time. Just don't do any coke. Just don't do that. Guys, if you got a video you'd like for me to watch or react to, you can post it in my Discord. Thank you for watching, and kids, hopefully remember what I just said.